The courtroom was packed. The air was heavy with the sense of scandal. People had come not merely as spectators. Each wanted to witness what is usually hidden behind the closed doors of someone else's family. Whispers filled the room. They spoke of the husband's betrayal, the bold promises of his mistress, and the wife's determination to see the case through. The wife sat on the plaintiff's bench, her hands resting on her knees. Her fingers trembled now and then, yet her face remained remarkably calm. She understood that today her fate would be decided. The fate of her children, her home, her future. Everything seemed to have shrunk into a single point. This hall, where the verdict would be pronounced. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared everyone could hear it. The husband sat across from her. His posture radiated arrogance. Lounging in his chair, he did not even bother to hide his smirk. His eyes reflected confidence. The case was already won. His wife was nothing but an obstacle he would soon step over. His new companion, a young, strikingly beautiful woman, clutched his hand and cast triumphant glances at the wife, as if silently saying, "I've won. He's mine now." The noise in the courtroom grew until the judge entered. Everyone rose. The husband straightened. The mistress feigned embarrassment. And the wife simply took a deep breath, struggling to steady her trembling. The judge sat down, opened a folder, and began naming the parties. His voice was stern and dry, but within that dryness lay authority. The wife listened, yet in her mind a storm of thoughts clashed. Should she reveal her secret, present her evidence, or leave everything in the hands of fate? The husband noticed her hesitation and allowed himself a smirk. He leaned toward his mistress, whispering something deliberately for the wife to see. The young woman giggled. That sound cut through the wife's heart like a blade, but at the same time gave her strength. She suddenly realized. This was the decisive moment. She could not remain silent. The judge paused and looked at her. Did the plaintiff have additional statements? All heads turned. The wife rose. Her voice came out unexpectedly firm, without a trace of tremor. "Your Honor, I request that a very important witness be called into the courtroom." At first there was silence, as though people had not immediately grasped the meaning of her words. Then a murmur spread through the rows. The husband frowned, whipping around toward her. For the first time in a long while, his eyes lost their certainty. "What witness?" he hissed, forgetting that the silence in the room meant everyone could hear him. The mistress raised her brows, tilting her head with a puzzled look. She had no idea there could be a third person who might shatter their carefully constructed scheme. The judge frowned and adjusted his glasses. Who exactly is this witness, and what relevance does he have to the case? The wife held her breath. She knew her next words would reveal everything. Summoning all her strength, she said clearly, "This is the person who can confirm the truth about my husband." A heavy silence descended upon the hall. The husband squeezed the mistress's hand so tightly she flinched. The wife, however, felt for the first time that control had returned to her. The judge spoke firmly. "The court permits the witness to be called." The heavy door swung open, and in walked a man in his 50s, tall, stern, with neatly groomed gray hair and a folder in his hands. His footsteps echoed through the stillness, each step drawing the moment of reckoning closer. The wife did not look away from him. She knew, this man could change everything. The husband's face altered drastically. His mask of smugness vanished. His lips trembled, his eyes widened. He recognized the newcomer, and for the first time throughout the trial, fear flickered in his gaze. "I am Pyotr Sergeyevich, former chief accountant of the defendant's company." The man introduced himself. A ripple ran through the courtroom. It became instantly clear. This was not just a family quarrel, but something far larger. "Your Honor," the witness continued, placing the folder on the stand, "I have brought documents confirming the defendant's financial fraud." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Fraud? Explain." Pyotr Sergeyevich opened the folder, carefully removing several sheets. His voice was calm, steady, unshaken. For 2 years the defendant illegally siphoned funds from his company. These funds were transferred to his mistress's accounts through fictitious contracts and shell firms. A collective gasp swept the courtroom. People exchanged glances. Some covered their mouths with their hands, others shook their heads. Whispers rose. The judge struck his gavel. "Order." The husband leapt up, shouting, "That's a lie. He quit because he was incompetent." But his voice betrayed uncertainty. The witness only looked at him calmly, then produced more documents. "All the facts are confirmed by bank statements and the defendant's own signatures." The husband's face drained of color, his hands trembled. The mistress clutched him desperately, her own face pale. She understood their carefully laid plans, and her future, were collapsing before her eyes. The witness laid out the documents one by one, as if placing cards on the table. Proof of an apartment bought in the mistress's name with company funds. Travel expenses disguised as business trips that were in fact their vacations. Jewelry purchases hidden under falsified accounts. The mistress suddenly jumped up, shrieking. "That's not true. He told me it was all legal, that it was his personal money." Her voice cracked into a screech. The judge gave her a stern look. "Sit down and keep order." She dropped back into her seat, but fear shone in her eyes for the first time. The husband buried his face in his hands, his shoulders trembling. He tried to speak, but words stuck in his throat. He no longer controlled the situation. His world was crumbling. The judge flipped through the documents, pausing at several pages. His expression grew graver. "These signatures do indeed belong to the defendant?" "Yes," the witness nodded. "I verified them personally. They are his." Noise surged again. It became obvious. This was no longer a simple divorce case, but a major financial crime. The wife looked at her husband. Her eyes showed no gloating, no vengeance, only bitter truth. She knew. This day would change them both forever. The husband muttered with pale lips, almost to himself. "How dare you?" But his words dissolved into the silence, where only the truth now spoke. The wife slowly stood and, with calm strength, addressed the judge. "Your Honor, I did not come here to seek revenge. I did not want to destroy his life, though he destroyed mine. I only wanted one thing, for the truth to be spoken aloud. This man betrayed not only me as his wife. He betrayed our family, our children. He betrayed the years we lived together. Everything I thought was real turned out to be a lie, bought with company money and hidden in another woman's hands." Whispers stirred through the courtroom. Someone even wiped away tears. She stood tall, her words ringing not like a complaint, but like a sentence. The witness confirmed her testimony, producing more papers. Forged contracts, transfers, accounts, all bearing the defendant's own signature. The judge turned his gaze to the husband, who now sat with his head bowed, drained of strength. Just recently he had felt like a victor. Now he looked like a man cornered. The mistress, who an hour ago had been radiantly confident, now clenched her hands so tightly her nails dug into her skin. Her eyes darted helplessly, searching for an escape. But there was none. The wife finished quietly, yet firmly. "I do not want my children to grow up in lies. Let them at least see that truth is stronger than betrayal." The hall fell utterly silent. The judge slowly nodded, making notes. The outcome was clear. The verdict rang out like thunder. The joint property is to be returned to the plaintiff. The defendant is found guilty of financial fraud. The case materials will be forwarded to the investigative authorities for further proceedings. The husband closed his eyes. His face darkened, his lips turned pale. Everything he had tried to hide, everything he had built, collapsed in minutes. The mistress recoiled from him as though from a stranger. The pride in her eyes was gone. She realized that beside her now sat not a wealthy, powerful man, but a criminal stripped of everything. The wife quietly gathered her papers and walked forward. She did not raise her head to look at him, did not utter a word. She no longer needed to prove anything. As she passed, the entire courtroom rose. Some looked at her with respect, others with admiration, others still with silent compassion. But no one doubted. She had won. On the courthouse steps, fresh air greeted her. She inhaled deeply, as if for the first time in years. The crushing weight on her shoulders had fallen away. She knew the road ahead would be hard, but now she was free. Behind her, in the half-dark hall, the husband sat with his head in his hands. For the first time he realized he had lost not only money and property, but the most important thing. The trust and love of the woman who once believed in him more than anyone. And that was a punishment harsher than any verdict. The wife walked away, straight-backed and steady. She knew. Her life was beginning anew.